I moved into apartment 4B on a gray, rainy afternoon. The first rain of the season made the air thick. The hallway smelled of new paint and cement. I only brought a few things: a suitcase, a kettle, and an old radio. The room was empty. The walls were painted a pale white. The small window looked out onto the skylight. The manager said this place, few people rented long-term. His voice was light, as if he was afraid I would ask more reasons. I didn't care. I was used to living alone, and the sound of rain falling on the tin roof was always the best thing to lull me to sleep. I just wanted peace. The first night, the rain fell incessantly. I made coffee, turned on the radio. The signal was noisy, and there was thunder in the distance. The skylight window was not closed tightly. The lock was rusty. I had to tie it with a cloth rope. The light from the hallway across the hall shone through, pale yellow like a dying candle. I lay down, listening to the rain falling thick as a curtain. Around midnight, I was awakened by another sound. Not thunder, not wind. There were 3 soft knocks, knocks, coming from the glass door. I opened my eyes. The room was misty, the fluorescent light flickering slightly. Outside, the skylight was as dark as a deep well. I sat up and walked barefoot to the window. The glass was covered in rain, as opaque as a frosted mirror. There was no one out there, just the other windows of the building, pitch black. But I saw 3 small parallel circular marks on the glass, like the marks of a fingertip that had just touched and slid down. I chuckled, thinking perhaps the condensation had just happened. To test it, I also knocked 3 times in response. Knock, knock, knock. The small echoes melted into the rain. I returned to bed, pulled the covers up, and tried to go back to sleep. 5 minutes later, there was another knock. This time 2 short beats, and 1 long one. Knock, knock, separated by a longer silence. As if someone was learning to speak. I lay still, my heart slowing, my mind as blank as the mist outside the door. I sat up and picked up the flashlight. The room was nothing new, just colder. I went to the window and shone the flashlight into the skylight. The light was lost in the rain, reflected off the black glass, and then disappeared somewhere below. The rain continued until almost dawn. I only dozed off when I heard birds chirping and the sound of falling water. The next morning, the hallway was damp, the smell of paint mixed with the smell of wet wood. I told the story of the knocking to the old lady in the next room, and she just laughed. This skylight always makes strange noises. It's okay. The rain got into the pipes. That evening, the rain got heavier. I turned off the light, leaving the radio on low. The sound of the newsreader mixed with the whistling wind outside the wall. I sat down to write a few lines in my notebook and realized that my handwriting was more squiggly than usual, probably because of the cold. As I was writing, the light went out. The whole room was plunged into darkness. Then, knock, 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 this time closer, clearer. I turned on the flashlight. The light shone on the glass. The 3 circles appeared again, in the same place, wetter. I lowered the light, my heart pounding. For a brief moment, I heard the wind carrying something as thin as a human voice, a breath. I couldn't sit still. I put on my coat, took my lamp, and went downstairs to meet the security guard. The hallway was dark, the sensor lights broken, only the dim light from the fire exit. I passed the stairs, where there was a window overlooking the skylight. In the middle of the window, there were 3 circles exactly like the ones on my door. I stopped, reached out to touch them. The glass was dry, but icy cold. From deep within the wall, the knocking sounded again, regular, knock, knock, knock. The security desk was empty. The duty book was open, a new page. I intended to write down the power outage, but there was a scribbled, water-stained line on the page. 4B, rang bell at 1:57, no answer. I stood still. I hadn't heard the bell. As I stared at the words, I heard wet footsteps dragging in the hallway behind me. I turned, following the sound, leading to the building's pump room. The door was ajar, the yellow light was flickering, the smell of engine oil and old iron mixed with the smell of damp moss. There were small muddy footprints on the floor, going from the door, stopping in front of a steel hatch. The edge of the hatch had 3 round watermarks, as if someone had pulled it up with a finger. I knelt down and shone the light inside. The technical tunnel was deep, dark, and the air was cold against my face. I called out, "Is anyone down there?" A pause, then knock, 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 3 beats, right below. I swallowed. "I'll call someone," I called out, but the walkie-talkie wasn't working. The phone had lost signal. In the dim flashlight light, I saw written in water on the wall of the tube, "Don't open." Below that was another, more blurred line, "Call her name." I don't know why, but the name Anna rang in my head. It wasn't my idea, it was someone whispering it in my ear. I put my hand on the edge of the hatch, about to climb down, when a cold hand gently touched my wrist from below. I fell back, the flashlight falling, the light spinning in the tunnel. Knock, 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 faster, as if pleading. I gasped. "What's your name? Who are you?" There was no response, only the sound of dripping water, and the pump gasping. I pulled the hatch shut, wedged it with a brick, and ran back to the duty desk. Just as I wrote 4B power outage, hatch open, my doorbell rang. 3 slow chimes, spaced at the same time as the knocks. I rushed up to the 4th floor. In front of door 4B, there was a girl standing. Gray coat, wet hair, small body. She turned her back. I stopped, intending to ask, but she slowly turned her head. Her face was pale as frost, purple lips, deep black eyes. She said nothing, just gestured towards the window in my room. I opened the door. Rain splashed in, freezing cold. She walked over, placed 3 fingertips on the glass. Knock, knock, knock. Then it dissipated, like steam in the wind. I stood in the middle of the empty room, my hand still gripping the door frame. The rain still fell, steady and lighter. I didn't know if I was dreaming or awake. I just knew my heart was so empty that I could hear every beat of my heart. The next morning, the electricity was back on. I told the technician about the hatch. He looked at me in surprise. "The ground floor hatch is sealed. Since 2 years ago, after the basement flooded. Can't be opened." I led him down to see. The hatch lay flat, the 4 corners welded shiny. There was no sign of opening it. I pointed to the mud stains on the floor. He just smiled. Maybe it was the rain. I didn't say anything more. That afternoon, the old lady 4C started a conversation while I was hanging clothes. "This skylight is strange. Before, there was a laundry worker who fell into the technical basement in the rain. People searched for her forever but couldn't find her. What was her name? Oh, Anna." I stood still. A cold wind blew through the hallway, the musty smell like the smell of the night before. I didn't ask anything more. That night, it rained again. I opened the small crack in the door, put in the bouquet of white flowers and a piece of paper with the words, "All well." I didn't know for someone, or for myself. I left the radio playing an old song. The sound of the piano mixed with the sound of the rain. It sounded like someone was tapping the beat in the distance. Near midnight, knock, 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 3 more sounds. I didn't go to the door, just said softly, "I'm listening." Then it stopped. The rain subsided. I fell asleep to the radio static. In the morning, the bouquet was still on the windowsill, the petals not yet wilted but dry as if covered. On the piece of paper, there was a new handwriting, thin, as if written with water, shaky but clear. "Anna." I touched the words lightly, then folded the paper and put it in my notebook. From that day on, I no longer heard the knocking, but every time it rained, I turned on the radio, put my hand on the window frame, and listened. Because somewhere between the sound of water and cold, someone might still be knocking the familiar 3 times, just to say tonight, she is still here. I first met her at the suburban bus station on a rainy October night. It had been raining all afternoon, heavy as a damp blanket covering the small town. I worked the night shift for the local transport company, my only job being to watch the last stop on Route 47, a bus route that had long since lost its passengers. The station had only a tin roof and a warped wooden bench. The rain pounded on the roof, a pattering sound like someone was playing a slow beat. The wind blew through the cracks in the walls, carrying the smell of damp earth and gasoline. I turned on the heater, sat in the tiny booth, and looked out the water-soaked window. Outside, the road was like a long, winding black snake, with no lights, only the faint reflection of the last stop sign. Around 11:30, I heard the sound of an engine. The headlights of the car pierced the rain, slowed down, and stopped in front of the station. It was the last bus of the day, coming from the city. The door was open, and no one got out. I opened my umbrella and ran to the driver to check. The driver was Tom Old, his face always sweaty despite the cold. "It's quiet tonight," he said hoarsely. "There was only one girl who got off at the previous stop and said to get off here, but I didn't see her." I frowned. "Maybe she fell asleep?" Tom shook his head. "No, I stopped where she told me to." The door opened, and when I turned around, the seat was empty. No shoe prints, no luggage, only the wet towel left behind. I took the towel white, with blue edges, and cold. The rain was still falling, the tires crunching the water like a sigh. I said, "The wind must have blown it away. It's okay." Tom smiled wryly. "Who walks in the middle of the street with this kind of rain?" The bus left the station, leaving me with the rain and the wet towel in my hand. I wrung the water out and hung it on a hook in front of the door. A light scent wafted out, not sure if it was perfume or the night breeze. Around midnight, I heard the creaking of a wooden chair outside the canopy. I shined my flashlight. A girl was sitting there, her coat thin, her hair soaked. She looked straight at the road, not moving. I stepped out, standing in the rain, and said loudly, "Miss, the station is closed. There are no more trips." She didn't answer. As I got closer, I realized her face was very young, probably not even 20. Her face was pale, her lips were purple, her eyes were blank. I held out my raincoat to her, but she said softly, her voice quieter than the sound of the rain, "Just wait for the bus. My mother said there are late trips every night." I sighed. "No, there isn't. This line stops at 11. She was silent, just looking at the black road in front of her. Rainwater ran down her eyelashes. I couldn't tell if it was water or tears. I said, "Come in and sit. You're very wet." She stood up and followed me into the duty room, not noticing the white towel hanging on the door with the same blue border as her shirt. I handed her a cup of hot tea. She took it with both hands, softly thanking me, her voice trembling like someone recovering from a fever. We sat across from each other, listening to the rain pounding against the glass. I asked vaguely, "Are you from around here?" She nodded. "On the other side of the river. My mother told me to be home by midnight, but I missed the bus." "No one lives on the other side of the river anymore," I said. "That area was demolished a long time ago." She smiled, a strange smile, as light as smoke. "Really? I still see the lights on in my house every night." I didn't say more. There was something about the way she said it that sent a chill down my spine, not fear, but a formless sympathy. At 1 in the morning, the wind changed direction. The rain pounded against the glass, the drops so big they shook the glass. The girl was startled, then asked me, "Did you hear that?" I listened. There was indeed something in the rain, a steady, 3-beat sound, coming from the tin roof or somewhere on the street. I smiled reassuringly. Maybe the tin sheets are loose. but she shook her head, her eyes looking outside. "No, that's the sound of a car signaling. Every time it's coming." I looked in the direction she pointed. The road was empty, flooded, no lights, no engine sound. Only the shadow of an electric pole tilted like a person bowing his head. Around 3 in the morning, she stood up. "I have to go," she said, softly as if talking to herself. I asked, "Where are you going?" "The road is flooded." She smiled, her eyes distant. "The late bus is coming." I tried to hold her back, but a cold wind blew in, turning off all the lights. When I turned it back on, she was no longer there. The door was half open, and rainwater poured in, chilling my feet. On the wooden bench outside the canopy, the white towel with blue edges lay neatly, soaked. I ran out onto the street, shining my flashlight everywhere, only seeing water and tree shadows. No footprints, no one. I held the towel, freezing cold. At the same time, a car's headlights flashed around the corner in the distance. I quickly waved. The bus slowed down, stopping in front of the bus stop. It was Tom, his face pale. "Did you see anything?" he asked hoarsely. "I was just talking to a girl. She was sitting on that seat." Tom was silent for a moment, then sighed softly. 3 years ago, there was an accident at that corner. A young girl was walking in the rain and was thrown into the river by a car. My car. I couldn't brake in time. I looked at him, not knowing what to say. He continued, "Every night when it rained heavily, people said they saw her sitting at the bus stop. I used to think it was my fault, but you saw, she never left that spot. It was like she was waiting for someone to pick her up." I didn't answer. I handed him the towel. He took it, his hand shaking. "This is hers," he said. "It's the first time I've picked one up like this. This scent is unmistakable." Early in the morning, the rain stopped. Tom's car left the station. I stayed to clean the station, wipe the windows, collect the trash. When I returned to hang the towel to dry, it was gone. Only 3 round watermarks remained on the glass door, like small handprints. I stood still, listening to the sound of water dripping down the roof, mixed with the early bird song, and realized that the rhythm matched the tapping last night. I didn't tell anyone about it. Even though it rained every night after that, I still went to work as usual, sat in the booth, looked out at the roof, and sometimes in the dim light of the street lamp, I saw a figure sitting on a wooden chair, wet hair, head tilted slightly, as if listening. One time, I turned on the old radio, playing an old music channel. The melody was broken through the static, but in the midst of the distortion, I heard a very small voice, like someone whispering through the rain. I'm home." I turned off the radio. Outside, the rain was falling again, steady, gentle, and far away. I put my hand on the glass in front of me, feeling the warmth spreading, gradually dissolving into the cold water. I thought to myself, perhaps somewhere in the sound of the rain, there was still someone waiting for the bus they had missed for so long. As for me, I still worked that night shift, still turned on the station lights every time it rained, like a nameless promise, so that if she came back, the station would still be lit, and the last bus would still be waiting. I've been driving a taxi at night in Seattle for more than 8 years. Rain is something you learn to live with if you do this job. It comes unannounced and stays all night like an uninvited guest. There's a strange beauty to the streets in the rain. Streaks of headlights streaking across the pavement, neon signs stretching like stretched strings of light. But behind the beauty is a dense loneliness, just the sound of windshield wipers, the hum of the radio, and the mechanical repetition of your heartbeat. I usually pick up passengers in the south side of the city, near the old ferry terminal. The whole area is run down, with abandoned warehouses and dim yellow streetlights. On rainy nights, I park under the overpass, both to avoid the rain and to wait for someone to call a late ride. That night, around 2 a.m., the rain was falling like a curtain. I was about to leave when the operator called the nearest call. Pick up at 117 Maple Street, near the ferry terminal. I hesitated. The area was almost deserted, but the confirmation signal was still clear. A woman's voice on the system, weak but firm. Can you come pick me up? I have to go home. Her voice was warm, tired, and somehow trying to keep calm. I confirmed the trip, turned on the engine, and left the parking spot. The road to the ferry terminal was deserted. On both sides were rows of wet warehouses, the headlights sweeping past, making the walls shimmer like fish skin. Rain pounded on the hood, steady like a giant second hand. When I turned onto Maple Street, the clock read 2:27 a.m. Number 117 stood next to a moss-covered brick wall. The porch light was broken, only the dim light of a street lamp shining diagonally down the steps. On it stood a girl in a white raincoat, clutching a handbag. Her hair was wet, sticking to her cheeks, but I saw a small smile as she bowed. I opened the car door. She sat in the back seat, silent for a moment, then said, "Can you take me to the Green Lake area? Take a detour around the bridge, away from the highway." Her voice was soft, a little hoarse. I nodded, started the car. In the rearview mirror, she looked out the window, her eyes reflecting the rain like glass. The rain was getting heavier. The sound of the wipers was squealing. I tried to speak. "This area is very deserted. Rarely anyone calls a car this late." She smiled softly. "I just got off work. The way back is too far, and it's raining at night. Hard to walk." She spoke, then fell silent, her eyes still looking at the rain. We crossed the iron bridge. The rain splashed against the glass like 1,000 small hands tapping. When the car reached the middle of the bridge, the car radio turned on by itself. An old song, crackling and slow. I turned it off, but the button didn't respond. The girl asked, her voice soft, "Did you hear that?" "I heard it," I said. "It must be static." She shook her head. "No, I hear something else. Outside." I slowed down. There was only rain and fog outside. No cars, no people. She continued, her voice getting softer. "Someone is following." I looked at the rearview mirror, empty. The road behind was pitch black, headlights reflecting on the water. I turned back to reassure her. "There's no one." But she didn't answer, just looked straight ahead, her hand gripping the strap of her bag. The rain fell harder. The wind whistling through the crack in the door sounded like a whisper. As the car left the bridge, she suddenly asked, "Do you believe that there are people who continue walking, even though they have reached their destination?" I was a little confused. "What do you mean?" She turned to me, her eyes strangely bright in the darkness. "I think there are people who don't know they have stopped." I didn't understand, just smiled awkwardly. If it were me, I would just want to have a peaceful night. She smiled, then turned away. Green Lake Road was flooded. The lake was only dimly lit, reflecting on the mottled water. I stopped at the side of the road where she told me to. She opened the door, bowed her head, and thanked me, her voice very small. "Thank you for picking me up. You were the first one to stop." The car door closed, no footsteps, no rustling of raincoats. I looked in the mirror, no one walked. Just a white curtain of rain. I turned around, the back seat was empty. Only a small leather bag was neatly placed. I opened it. Inside was an old blurry photo of a young girl standing in front of the ferry. Her face was down, her raincoat white. Behind her, the Maple Ferry sign was tilted. In the corner of the photo, the date was the 3rd of November 2018. I was stunned. It was today, just a different year. I went back to the station and told the manager what had happened. He looked at me, frowning. Maple Ferry, that area has been cleared for 4 years. That girl, you must have misheard. There was a ferry sinking there. 3 people died, only 2 bodies were found. I was silent. Her voice echoed in my head. You were the first one to stop. The next night, I drove through the same stretch of road again. There was no call signal, but at the turn near the bridge, the radio came on without me touching it. The same old song. I eased off the gas. On the sidewalk, through the thick rain, someone stood, white raincoat, wet hair, facing my car. I didn't stop. I just drove slowly, looking through the rearview mirror. She was still standing there until her silhouette disappeared into the rain. From that night on, every time it rained, the company's automated car system received a booking from 117 Maple. No name, just a note. Need to Green Lake, avoid the freeway. No one dared to take the trip. But occasionally, the system logs will record a vehicle as having completed its journey, even though no one knows which vehicle it is. People often say, souls are not tied to the place where they died, but to the place they have not yet left. Maybe she is still standing somewhere at the end of the bridge, looking at me through the thick rain, waiting for me to turn on the lights, turn the car, and stop again. I am not afraid. The rain makes everything slower, softer, more real. And sometimes, in the rearview mirror, I think I see the shadow of someone sitting behind the seat, hand on the strap of a leather bag, eyes peaceful. I do not turn back, just keep driving, leaving her alone on the bus that has not yet reached its destination. Out there, the city is still immersed in rain. The lights reflect on the wet road like memories, and somewhere, maybe someone is still booking a trip, hoping to go home. I know, if the system rings the name 117 Maple again tonight, I will still accept it, not out of curiosity or fear, because maybe, in some rainstorm, I will also need someone to stop just to say, I'm still here.